Hello, welcome to my life page. My name is Lahiri, and I'm going to talk to you today about school headships. But before I do that, I'd just like to give you a little run up to my life and how I got there. I was educated at St. Xavier's School in Jaipur, and then went on to do my degree, 2 degrees, my bachelor's and my master's from St. Stephen's College in Delhi. I was very fortunate to receive a Rhodes Scholarship to then attend the University of Oxford, where I did a postgraduate program in the social sciences. I was then at a crossroads and I didn't quite know what to do with my life. And as it happened, while I was at the University of Oxford, the head of the publishing house of the University of Oxford in India, the Oxford University Press, a gentleman called Mr. Ravi Dayal, who's probably one of the greatest publishers the country has ever known, arrived in Oxford for a visit, and someone introduced me to him. And he spent a lot of time with me and told me about the intricacies of publishing and asked me if I would like to try my hand at it. Since I had nothing better on my sights, I decided to give it a shot. So when I came back to India, I found myself employed as an editor with the Oxford University Press. I worked with the press for 5 years as a manager, as an editor. And I must confess that whilst it was a thoroughly enjoyable profession and very challenging in many ways, I got to meet loads of authors, some very bright minds. I was editing some fantastic books that some really super minds had written. But at the end of the day, I didn't quite feel that this was my thing. And there was something deep down inside which said that I must move on. The next thing that I knew was that there was an advertisement in the newspapers from Hindustan Lever, which was a big corporate company. And I was very tempted because Oxford University Press, being a publishing house, was a very low-key establishment. The salaries were not very high. And my friends at that stage were working in all these multinationals like Tatas and Levers and earning big salaries and traveling the world and staying in 5-star hotels. And I said, what the hell, why don't I give it a shot? So I applied for the job and I got it. And I was appointed as an area sales manager with a fairly hefty salary in those days and good perks and so on and so forth. Having worked there for a few months, I again felt this feeling that this was not really who I was or what I wanted to do with my life. I just couldn't see myself selling consumer products like soap, shampoos, and I'm not passing value judgment. People who sell those things do a great job and a great service to society. Just that I wasn't cut out for it. And I wasn't enjoying that experience at all. And so I put in my papers, and once again, big question of what am I going to do next? And as it happened, I went and met a very old friend and a mentor of mine, Mr. Shomi Ranjan Das, who was then heading the Lawrence School in Sanaa. And he said, I have always felt that you would make a very good schoolmaster, a public schoolmaster in a residential school. Why don't you give that a shot? And knowing about his life, and he was always a great role model for me, I felt that was worth a try. And so I applied and I got a job in the Doon School. And then there was no looking back. I taught for 9 years in the Doon School as a housemaster there. And then I went on to head a very big private, what is called a public school in India, a residential school called the Lawrence School in Lovedale in the south, in Ooty. I headed that for 9 years. And then I did brief stints with 2 other schools in between, the Selakui School in Dehradun and the Heritage School in Kolkata. And then I finally landed up at Welham Boys in Dehradun, which I headed for 8 years. When I retired from there, I was lucky enough to get an offer to go and work in a residential school in America, which was an amazing experience. I did that for 2 years. I came back, and then I worked at a university for a while as a director of student development and welfare in one of the new private universities in India. I did that for close to a year, thoroughly enjoyed that experience, and now I've decided to hang up my boots and lead a retired life. Okay, I'd now like to talk to you briefly about school headship and how you go about planning on being a school head. To begin with, I think you can't really plan on being a head of school. There's no real career path. It's not that you join an organization and you say, I'm going up the ladder and I'm going this way and up the ladder by stages. School headship will happen to you if you are a good teacher. To begin with, I think that should be very clear that to be a good school head, you've got to start at the bottom of the food chain with being a good classroom teacher and learning the nitty-gritty of teaching on the ground. As you distinguish yourself and catch the eye of people who are concerned, you must at the same time keep honing your skills as a school teacher and adding to your knowledge of what is happening in the world of education. Education is a field that is changing rapidly almost every single day, much like the IT world. There are changes happening on a day-to-day basis, and as a teacher committed to the profession, you must make it your business to be abreast of these changes and keep yourself informed. Of course, it goes without saying that you've got to equip yourself with the degrees that are required to be a school head, and these primarily are a master's degree in some subject, plus a teaching qualification, like a B.Ed. I will speak about the B.Ed a little later, but the point is you've got to have both these degrees. And at the same time, if you want to be a good school head, you've got to keep equipping yourself with the knowledge that is required. And the point in India is that there is a great scarcity of school heads. Today, lots and lots of new schools are coming up, but they are all looking desperately for someone to head them. Now, if you have done your homework right and you've spent a sufficient number of years in a teaching position, then you must make sure that you also get into some kind of administration in the school that you are at or in some other school. But a position like that of a vice principal, being a vice principal really helps, because then you get a very close look at what a principal's job is all about. So having been a good school teacher, you then move on to becoming a vice principal or a similar post. Some schools have deans and directors. They go under various names. But a job which involves some kind of administrative responsibilities, so that you've combined your classroom teaching and your pedagogical knowledge with administrative experience. And then when the opportunity comes, you must grab the first headship that you get, after due diligence, and then go on from there. So that's in a nutshell how you get to be a head of school. Now, in order to be a good school head, there are certain prerequisites that are very important. Some of these you will gain as on the job itself. Being a school head, one thing you must understand, a lot of the stuff that you are going to have to do, the knowledge of that you will acquire on the job. There is no, unfortunately, formal training for school heads in this country. Most of us have to learn on the job. So what are the things that you must be aware of and educate yourself on? First of all is, of course, the business of management.